AITA for refusing to sign when my wife brought her boyfriend to our daughter's school play. I'm Steven, 40, and by that night, my marriage to Leah had already been falling apart for months. We had been together 14 years, married for 12, and our daughter, Ivy, was 10. 10 is a rough age for a kid to watch a marriage come apart. Ivy was old enough to notice every changed plan and every silence at the dinner table, but still young enough to believe that if both parents said, "We're working on it," then maybe there was something left to work on. For a long time, I believed that too. Leah had not always been the woman standing in a school hallway with another man beside her and an envelope full of paperwork in her hand. When Ivy was little, Leah was the parent who could turn a miserable Tuesday into something fun. She made animal pancakes with strawberry ears. She once built a birthday treasure hunt out of printer paper and painter's tape because money was tight and Ivy had become obsessed with pirates. She made up ridiculous songs during bath time and knew exactly how to distract a crying toddler long enough for me to get medicine into her. Those memories were real. I have never tried to erase them, and I don't think Ivy should have to erase them either. The problem was that as Ivy got older, parenting stopped being mostly cute moments and became 1,000 repetitive responsibilities. School forms, dentist appointments, reading logs, bedtime, homework, lunches, permission slips, picking up a prescription before the pharmacy closed. Remembering that picture day was Thursday and that Ivy had outgrown the shoes she wanted to wear. Somewhere along the way, I became the parent who handled those things automatically. At first, I didn't resent it. Every marriage has uneven stretches. If Leah was overwhelmed, I figured I could carry more for a while. But for a while, slowly became our normal. I kept the calendar. I scheduled the appointments. I checked the backpack. I sat through parent conferences and recital practices. Leah was still affectionate with Ivy, and she was still good at the fun things, but she started reacting badly anytime responsibility came with a fixed time attached to it. If I asked, "Are you still taking Ivy to practice at 5?" Leah heard, "You are irresponsible." If I asked, "Can you confirm you'll pick her up Friday?" she heard, "I'm monitoring you." If I reminded her that Ivy had been waiting for a call, I was controlling the situation. I wish I could say I handled that perfectly. I didn't. I am organized by nature, and when I'm stressed, I get more organized, not less. I can see how living with someone who wants every plan nailed down can feel rigid. There were times I cared too much about being right about the schedule and not enough about how the conversation sounded. But I also knew what happened when nobody kept track. Ivy waited. That became the real problem. About 8 months before the school play, Leah told me she needed space. We were sitting at the kitchen table after Ivy had gone to bed. There were 2 mugs between us, both cold by then. "I can't breathe in this house anymore," Leah said. I asked her if she wanted counseling. She said she wanted distance first. I asked what that meant for Ivy. That was the first moment she snapped. "See, this is what I mean. I say I'm falling apart, and you immediately turn it into logistics." I remember staring at her because I genuinely did not know what answer would have been acceptable. We had a 10-year-old. Logistics were not a separate issue. Still, I agreed to a temporary separation because I thought forcing someone to stay under the same roof was worse. Leah stayed elsewhere, and we told Ivy that Mom and Dad were having problems, but both loved her. I made one promise to myself then. I would not use Ivy as the person I vented to. When she asked why Mom was gone, I said adults sometimes need space to solve adult problems. When she asked whether Mom was coming home, I told her I did not know instead of giving her false hope. When Leah missed something, I tried not to turn it into a character judgment. Something came up, I would say. That phrase became a regular guest in our house. The first time Leah canceled a dinner with Ivy, she texted me 2 hours before pickup. Something came up. "Can we do tomorrow? Tell Ivy I love her." I told Ivy. The next day became the following weekend. The following weekend became a quick lunch instead of the afternoon they had planned. Then Leah promised she would come to one of Ivy's recital practices. Ivy checked the door every few minutes. Leah texted 15 minutes after practice started. "Running behind. Might not make it. Tell her I'm sorry." She didn't make it. A few days later, Leah dropped off a bag with art markers, a bracelet kit, and a small stuffed fox Ivy had wanted. Ivy liked the gifts. She also asked, "Is Mom coming in?" Leah had already driven away. I started keeping a more careful calendar, not because I had a custody case in mind, but because Ivy was getting confused about which plans were real. I would put mom dinner or mom pickup on our shared calendar when Leah confirmed it. If Leah canceled, I changed it instead of pretending the plan had never existed. At some point, Leah noticed. "Why are you documenting everything?" she asked on the phone. "I'm trying to stop telling Ivy the wrong thing. You make everything sound like evidence. It's a calendar. You know what you're doing." I didn't at the time, not in the way she meant. The blue notebook started around then. It was nothing special. A cheap-lined notebook with a blue cover and a sticker on the front that had started peeling at one corner. Ivy carried it in her backpack because she liked writing little stories in it. One afternoon, after Leah had canceled another visit, I heard them talking on a video call. I wasn't trying to listen. I was in the kitchen and Ivy was on the couch. Ivy said, "I'm mad." Leah answered, "At Dad?" There was a pause. "I don't know." "Well, if you're upset, write it down for me. Write what happens and how you feel. Then I can understand you better." I thought it was a decent suggestion. Kids sometimes say more on paper than they can out loud. Ivy took it seriously. The next time Leah came by, Ivy had the notebook in her hand. "Do you want to read it?" she asked. Leah was standing near the front door looking at her phone. "Not right now, baby. I'm already late. Bring it next time." Ivy put it back in her backpack. That happened more than once. Leah would say, "Write it down for me," and Ivy would write. Then Leah would forget to ask, or the visit would get shortened, or she would say she would read it later. I noticed the notebook because Ivy always had it, even on days she did not need it for school. I never asked to read it. I considered it hers. Then Aaron entered the picture. I did not find out through some dramatic confrontation. Ivy mentioned him while eating cereal. Mom's friend has a kid who likes dinosaurs. I looked up from the sink. "What friend?" "Aaron. His kid is Caleb. He's 6. I said, "Okay." I managed to keep my voice flat until Ivy went upstairs. Then I called Leah. She admitted she was seeing someone. I asked how long. She said that was not relevant. I asked whether Ivy had been spending time around him. She accused me of trying to control her personal life. "I'm asking who is around our daughter," I said. "You don't get to approve every person I know." I didn't say I did. "You always do this. You ask questions until people feel like they're on trial." That ended the call. I still did not know whether Aaron had appeared before or after Leah asked for space. I had suspicions, but by then, that question mattered less than what was happening to Ivy. At first, Ivy seemed curious about Caleb. Then she got quieter after seeing them together more. One night, while I was helping her find a library book she had misplaced, she asked, "If Mom has Caleb now, does she still need me on weekends?" I froze with one hand under the couch. "She doesn't have Caleb instead of you," I said. "But he gets to be there. He lives with his dad. That's different. She does stuff with them." I sat down on the floor beside her. "Your mom loving other people does not make you less her daughter." I believed that sentence. I still do. What I could not promise was that Leah was behaving in a way that made Ivy feel it. Around the same time, members of Leah's family started contacting me. Paige, Leah's younger sister, sent the first message. Maybe she just needed someone to believe her. "You don't have to like what she's doing, but please stop making it hard for her to see Ivy." I stared at the message for a while. I typed 3 different answers and deleted all of them. Finally, I sent, "I have never stopped Leah from seeing Ivy. Ask her for the dates." Paige replied, "I'm not getting in the middle." That would have been easier to believe if she had not already stepped into the middle. Then Leah's father, Martin, called me. Martin and I had always gotten along. He is the kind of man who does not talk much unless he thinks something needs saying. He told me, "Whatever happened between you and Leah, don't punish her through Ivy." I'm not. That's not what she says. Then ask her when I refused a visit. There was a silence. He said, "I'm just telling you what I'm hearing." That was when I realized Leah was not merely complaining that our separation was hard. She had built an explanation for why Ivy was becoming less excited about seeing her. The explanation was me. According to Leah, I was rigid, angry, controlling, and quietly poisoning Ivy against her. If Ivy hesitated before a visit, that was because I had made her uncomfortable. If a visit did not happen, that was because I had made scheduling impossible. If Leah felt unwelcome, that was because I had created a hostile environment. What she left out were the texts where she canceled. She left out the calls she forgot. She left out the nights Ivy sat waiting in shoes because Leah said she was on her way. I kept thinking the truth would eventually be obvious without my help. That was one of my biggest mistakes. I thought silence made me mature. In reality, silence left a blank space, and Leah filled it. A month before the school play, I finally lost my temper. Leah had canceled a Saturday with Ivy after Ivy had packed an overnight bag. She said she and Aaron had something come up and asked whether we could move it to sometime next week. I called her instead of texting. "You cannot keep doing this," I said. "Doing what?" "Making plans with her and dropping them when something better comes along." "That's not what happened." "She packed yesterday." I said I was sorry. "You say you're sorry to me. She gets the empty afternoon." Leah said I was trying to shame her. I said, "Then stop playing mother when people are watching and disappearing when nobody is." The second it came out, I knew it was cruel. There was a pause on the other end. Then Leah said very calmly, "Thank you." "For what?" "For finally saying what you really think." She hung up. Later, I learned Ivy had been standing halfway down the hall and heard enough to understand that I was talking about her mother. I went to her room and sat on the floor beside her bed. I should not have said that. I told her. "Is Mom bad?" "No." That answer came too quickly, so I tried again. "Your mom has made choices that have hurt you. I'm angry about some of those choices. But you do not have to decide whether she is good or bad. That is not your job. Are you mad at me?" "No, never for this." I hated that she even asked. A week later, Paige sent me a screenshot of that sentence from the phone call, except without anything around it. Leah had apparently repeated it as proof that I had always despised her as a mother. I did not defend myself to Paige. I figured I had said it, and I had to own that part. Then came the school play. It was one of those elementary school productions where half the parents are trying to record and the other half are trying to see around the phones. Folding chairs filled the multipurpose room. The paper program had been printed crooked. Ivy had a small role and wore a simple costume with a felt star pinned to the front. She had been nervous all week. Leah had promised she would be there. I did not tell Ivy that Leah had also promised several other things and missed them. I just said, "Your mom knows the time." The lights dimmed. The first group of kids came out. Leah's seat was empty. Then, about 10 minutes in, I heard movement behind me. Leah came down the side aisle with Aaron and Caleb. She was not sneaking in. She was dressed like this was an introduction she wanted people to notice. Aaron looked confident, maybe too confident for a man walking into a room full of people who knew he was dating someone still legally married. Caleb looked bored and slightly overwhelmed, which was fair. He was 6. None of this was his doing. They sat a few rows away. Ivy saw them. I know because she missed one of her cues. Only for a second, but I saw her eyes move toward them. She recovered and kept going. I spent the rest of the play trying not to imagine what she was thinking. Afterward, the room turned into the usual mess of families, costumes, paper programs, teachers trying to keep track of children, and people taking pictures against a painted backdrop. I found Ivy near the hallway outside the multipurpose room. She hugged me and immediately looked past my shoulder. "Mom came." "She did." "And Caleb?" "Yeah." Before I could say anything else, Leah approached with Aaron beside her and Caleb a step behind. Leah hugged Ivy quickly. "You were amazing," she said. Ivy said, "You missed my first part." "I know, baby. Traffic." Then Leah looked at me. There was an envelope in her hand. "This needs to happen," she said. She pressed it against my chest hard enough that I had to grab it before it fell. I looked down. My name was typed on the front. "What is this?" "You know what it is." I opened the flap far enough to see the first page. Divorce paperwork. A proposed agreement. Parenting terms. I looked back at her. "Here." "Don't make this dramatic." I almost laughed at the sentence, considering where we were and who she had brought. Aaron crossed his arms. Leah lowered her voice, but not enough. "Just sign. We can stop dragging this out and be a real family." Ivy was standing 3 feet away. I said, "What did you just say?" Leah glanced at Ivy, then back at me. "I mean, all of us can move forward. Ivy wants this too." That was the moment Ivy reached into her backpack. She pulled out the blue notebook. The sticker on the cover was almost completely peeled off by then. She held it toward Leah. "Mom, Did you read the pages you told me to write? Leah's face changed. Not dramatically. She did not gasp. She did not drop anything. She just stopped looking confident. Ivy, not right now. But you said to write it. I know. I brought it last time. We'll talk about it later. Ivy's hand slowly lowered. Aaron looked from the notebook to Leah. What is that? He asked. Nothing, Leah said too quickly. It's just something between me and Ivy. I said, then maybe you should read it. Leah turned on me. Do not start. I didn't bring divorce papers to a school play. You were never going to cooperate privately. You never asked me to review this. I have been trying to get you to be reasonable for months. I saw Ivy watching us. That ended the conversation for me. I closed the envelope. I'm not signing anything here. Leah's jaw tightened. Of course you're not. No, I'm going to read it. Aaron said, it's a standard agreement. I looked at him. Then you can sign it. He started to say something, but Leah put a hand on his arm. Ivy had already put the notebook back in her backpack. I took her hand and said we were going home. Leah called after me, you're embarrassing me. I turned around once. No, Leah, I'm leaving a school. That night, after Ivy was asleep, I sat at the kitchen table and read every page in the envelope. The petition itself was not what bothered me. By that point, divorce was not a shocking possibility. The proposed terms were. Leah wanted an arrangement that would move fast. She wanted broad language allowing Ivy to stay with her in a new household, with very little transition structure. The proposed custody language was vague enough to sound cooperative while giving Leah room to claim significant time quickly. The financial terms assumed changes involving the house that I was not willing to agree to without review. But what made my stomach turn was a section attached as a parenting summary. It said Ivy had expressed fear and discomfort in Stephen's home environment. It said she had repeatedly stated a desire to reside primarily with her mother. It said Leah had experienced continued interference with access. I read those sentences 3 times. Ivy had never told me she wanted to live with Leah. More importantly, I had never heard her say she was afraid of me. That did not mean she had never said something to someone else. Kids sometimes tell one parent things they cannot tell the other. I knew better than to assume my perspective was the only one. So I did not wake Ivy up and interrogate her. I did not call Leah. I did not send Aaron a message telling him to stay out of my family. I put the papers in a drawer, took pictures of each page, and barely slept. The next afternoon, I waited until Ivy was home, had eaten, and was sitting at the table drawing. I sat across from her. Can I ask you something without you being in trouble? She looked suspicious immediately. Okay. The notebook you showed Mom, is that private? She shrugged. Some of it. Then I won't read the private parts. She looked at me for a second. Mom told me to write what happens. I know. She said she would read it. Did she? Ivy shook her head. Do you want someone else to help you with it? Maybe your school counselor or another counselor. Someone whose job is to listen to kids when their parents are having problems. She stopped drawing. Would Mom read it then? Only if you wanted her to see something. Ivy stared down at the paper. Then she said, very quietly, I tried to tell Mom. I had to look away for a second. Not because I was angry, because I suddenly understood that the notebook was not a mysterious piece of evidence waiting to save me. It was a record of my kid trying to get a parent's attention. That distinction mattered. I told Ivy we would find someone she could talk to, and that she could decide what parts of the notebook were private. A few days later, I met with a family law attorney. I am not going to turn this into legal advice because every situation is different, and my attorney's first instruction was basically to stop treating Leah's proposed agreement like it carried some magical power just because she handed it to me in an envelope. I did not have to sign her version. I did have to take the accusation seriously. My attorney told me to preserve communication, keep things child-focused, and stop arguing by phone when possible. So I did. I saved the cancellation texts. Something came up. Can we do tomorrow? Tell Ivy I love her. I exported the shared calendar showing planned visits and cancellations. I saved the message where Leah told Ivy to write it down so I can understand you. Because Leah had also sent a similar instruction to me once after Ivy refused a video call. I moved co-parenting discussions into writing. Leah hated that. "You're building a case," she texted. I answered, "I'm keeping a clear schedule for Ivy." She replied, "You always have to control the record." I did not answer that one. The school counselor had already spoken with Ivy a few times because one of her teachers noticed she had been distracted. With Ivy's permission, I asked the counselor whether she could clarify one narrow issue for the adults involved. The counselor would not give me a detailed account of private conversations, and I did not ask her to. What she sent was brief. She confirmed that Ivy had discussed disappointment around canceled maternal visits and anxiety about being replaced in her mother's new household. She also stated that Ivy had not reported being afraid of me in their conversations. That email did not prove I was a perfect father. It did not decide custody. It did not mean Ivy had never been upset with me. It did mean Leah's summary was not matching the pattern a neutral adult had actually heard. The notebook came next, carefully. Ivy began seeing a child counselor outside school. At one session, with the counselor present, Ivy chose a few pages she was comfortable sharing because they were about missed plans and things she had already tried to tell both parents. I did not get the rest. I did not ask for the rest. The pages she approved were simple because she was 10. One had a date at the top and a line about waiting for mom to pick her up. Another said mom told her to write when she was upset, then forgot to call. Another mentioned Caleb and asked whether mom liked being with him because he was easier. There were also lines about me. One page said I had gotten mad because Ivy left wet towels on the floor. Another said I was annoying about bedtime. I almost laughed when I read that one, not because the situation was funny, but because it was so normal. It was the opposite of the document Leah had written. Ivy did not sound like a child composing a case for either parent. She sounded like a child writing down whatever had happened that day. That was exactly why the notebook mattered. Leah had wanted useful sentences. Ivy had given her an actual voice. The more I reviewed the parenting summary, the more obvious the manipulation became. One line in Leah's version said Ivy does not feel comfortable at Dad's house when he is angry. The original context, according to a page Ivy had approved for the counselor, was about the phone call where I said Leah should stop playing mother when people were watching. Ivy wrote that she did not like hearing me angry and went to her room because she felt uncomfortable. That was fair. I had apologized for it. But Leah had converted a specific moment, one where I actually had been wrong, into a broad statement that Ivy feared living with me. Another line in Leah's summary claimed Ivy asks to stay with mom instead. The context was a canceled weekend where Ivy had written that she wished mom would still take her because she had packed her bag. The sentence had not meant, I want to leave Dad. It meant, I want mom to show up. That difference made me furious in a way the affair question, the separation, and even the school play stunt had not. Because Leah had not just lied about me. She had translated Ivy's hurt into whatever language benefited her. Leah sensed that I was no longer reacting the way she expected. She started calling my refusal to sign punishment. "You're weaponizing Ivy," she said in a voicemail. I did not call back. Aaron texted me from a number I did not know. "You're bitter. Leah is trying to move on and be a mother. Stop using your daughter to keep control." I replied once. "Do not contact me about custody. That is between Ivy's parents and our attorneys." He answered, "Convenient." I blocked the number. Paige messaged me too. "You don't have to like Aaron, but Leah needs a chance to rebuild." I wrote back, "Rebuild what?" She said, "Her relationship with Ivy." I answered, "Then she should start with keeping the plans she makes with Ivy." Paige did not reply. A few days later, Leah asked for a family meeting. That was her wording. She wanted her parents, June and Martin, and Paige there. She said she was tired of private conversations being twisted and wanted everyone in the same place, so I would have to be reasonable. The irony was obvious, but I agreed for one reason. Those were the same people she had involved in judging my behavior. If Leah wanted an audience for her version, she could hear mine in front of the same audience. I made one condition. Ivy would not be there. Leah pushed back at first. "This is about her." "Exactly. She should be able to say what she wants. She has a counselor for that." "You mean the counselor you found?" "The counselor we can both speak to through the proper process. Ivy is not sitting in a room while adults argue about which one she loves more." Eventually, Leah agreed. I arranged for Ivy to spend the evening with a trusted friend's family. The meeting happened at June and Martin's house. Aaron came too. I almost objected, but I decided it was useful. He had been acting on what Leah told him. He could hear the facts directly. June looked uncomfortable from the moment I walked in. She is the kind of person who believes family problems should remain invisible as long as possible. This could have been handled quietly, she said while we were still taking seats. I said, I tried quiet. Leah gave a short laugh. That's rich. Martin told both of us to stop before we started. Paige sat near Leah. Erin sat beside her with one hand on the back of her chair. I brought a thin stack of papers. Not a giant binder. Not a dramatic folder with color-coded tabs. Just copies of the proposed parenting summary, the calendar, selected texts, the counselor's email, and the few notebook pages Ivy had agreed could be used for this issue. Leah started first. She said she wanted a stable future for Ivy. She said I had always controlled money, schedules, and decisions. She said after the separation, I had made her feel like a visitor in her own daughter's life. She said Erin and Caleb had given her a chance to rebuild a healthy home and that I was threatened by it. Then she said, I just want to be her mother again. June reached for her hand. Paige looked at me like she expected me to argue about Erin. I did not. I asked Leah, how many scheduled visits did I refuse? Her expression hardened. This is what I mean. You turn everything into numbers. How many? It wasn't always a direct refusal. What does that mean? You created tension. You made Ivy feel guilty. You would question every plan. I asked whether you were coming when you said you were coming. Erin cut in. She shouldn't have to report to you. I looked at him. When the plan involves our 10-year-old standing by the door with a bag, yes, she should confirm it. He leaned forward. You're proving her point. Martin said, let him finish. I put the shared calendar printout on the table. Here are the dates Leah confirmed. These are the dates she canceled or moved. Leah barely looked at it. That calendar is yours. It's the shared calendar. The cancellations match your texts. I put copies of the text beside it. June read the first page. Paige leaned closer. There were no angry responses from me in those screenshots. Mostly because I had eventually learned to answer with things like, please give me a new confirmed time, or I'll tell Ivy. Leah said, you're taking normal life changes and making them sinister. Once or twice would be normal. Things happen. They happen to Ivy a lot. You're punishing me because my life changed. No, I'm refusing to pretend canceled time is the same as denied time. That was the first point when Paige's expression changed. Not completely. She did not suddenly move to my side. She just stopped looking certain. I showed them the counselor's email next. I explained exactly what it was and what it was not. It does not say I'm a perfect parent. It does not recommend custody. It confirms what Ivy talked about at school, which was missed visits and feeling replaced. It says she did not report being afraid of me in those conversations. Leah said, a school counselor does not know what happens in your house. I agree. She blinked, like she had expected a fight. I'm not asking anyone to treat this as proof of everything. I continued. I'm asking why your parenting summary says the opposite so confidently. Leah's face went red. That summary came from things Ivy said. Which things? She told me she was uncomfortable when you were angry. That happened once during a call. She heard me say something I should not have said. I apologized to her. You always minimize your behavior. I'm not minimizing it. I'm giving the context you removed. Then I put the parenting summary beside one of the notebook pages Ivy had approved for sharing. I did not hand over the whole notebook. It was not even in the room. Leah stared at the copy. You went through her diary? No. That is exactly what this is. These are pages Ivy chose with her counselor because they relate to canceled visits and the statements you attributed to her. The rest is private. You had no right. You told her to write things down. For me. And then you didn't read them. Leah looked toward her mother. This is what he does. He sets traps and then acts calm. I felt anger rise, but I kept my voice level. You asked Ivy to create a written record of her feelings. You used pieces of what she said to tell people she wanted to leave my house. But you did not read what she actually wrote. That is not what I meant. I put another approved page down. It had a date and a short entry about Leah canceling a call. Then another, where Ivy wrote that she had brought the notebook and Mom said she was too busy. Leah pushed her chair back slightly. You are humiliating me in front of my family. I said, you brought your family into this. June cut in. Stephen, this is still Leah's private relationship with her daughter. I agree, which is why Ivy isn't here and why you're not seeing anything she didn't agree could be shared. Paige picked up the calendar again. She counted silently for a moment. Then she said, I didn't know she missed that many days. Leah turned toward her. Paige, don't. I'm just saying I didn't know. You know what he's like. I know what you told me. Aaron's hand was no longer on Leah's chair. He asked, did she really bring you the notebook before? Leah looked at him. What? At the play you acted like you didn't know what was in it. I knew she wrote in it. That's not what I asked. Leah's eyes flashed. Why are you interrogating me now? He sat back. I'm asking. Martin had been quiet through most of this. He picked up the page where Ivy had written the date of a missed visit. He read it. Then he looked at Leah. Did you actually read what your daughter wrote? Nobody spoke for a few seconds. Not because it was some movie moment. There was no shockwave. June looked down at the table. Paige held the calendar in both hands. Aaron stared at Leah. Leah rubbed her forehead. I read some things she sent me. Martin asked again. The notebook. Did you read it? I was going to. When? Leah's voice rose. I was dealing with a separation. I was trying to build a life. I was being attacked every time I tried to do anything. That's not an answer, Martin said. Leah looked at me. This is exactly what you wanted. No, I said. What I wanted was for you to stop saying Ivy told you things she didn't tell you. She did tell me things. Then use the actual things. I slid the parenting summary forward. This says she repeatedly stated she wanted to live primarily with you. Show me where that came from. Leah did not touch the paper. She missed me. That is not the same sentence. She wanted more time with me. I agree. She did. So what is your point? My point is that wanting you to show up became, in your version, wanting to leave me. Leah looked away. That was the twist in its plainest form. There was no secret recording. No private investigator. No surprise witness. Just context. Ivy had written that she wished her mother would come get her. Leah had turned that into proof Ivy wanted to live with her. Ivy had written that hearing me angry made her uncomfortable. Leah had turned that into proof Ivy feared my home. Ivy had written that Caleb got more time with Leah. Leah had used Ivy's distress about the new household as an argument for moving her into that household faster. I looked at Leah and said, you did not want her voice. You wanted useful sentences. Leah's eyes filled with tears. I did not feel triumphant. I wish I had. It would make the story cleaner. Instead, I felt sick, because the woman sitting across from me was still the person who had once stayed up all night when Ivy had a fever, the person who made pirate maps and ridiculous pancakes, the person I had spent 14 years believing I understood. And I also knew I was done protecting her version of events. Leah said, you're acting like I don't love her. I did not say that. You're telling everyone I abandoned my child. I'm showing the dates you canceled. I was struggling. I believe you. She looked surprised again. I continued, struggling does not give you permission to say I prevented things you canceled. Aaron asked Leah, quietly now. You told me he kept changing weekends. Leah said, he did. I pointed to the calendar. Which ones? She stood up. I'm not doing this. Martin said, sit down. She didn't. June told him not to speak to her like that. Paige said, Dad's just asking. Leah grabbed her bag. This whole thing was a mistake. I said, one thing before you leave. She glared at me. I'm not signing the agreement you gave me. I'm not agreeing to move Ivy into a new household on vague terms. I'm not agreeing to changes involving the house without review. From now on, custody and scheduling go through written channels. We can use a co-parenting app. Ivy stays in counseling. Any change in living arrangements gets handled through the proper process. Leah shook her head. You are punishing me. No, I'm removing the part where you get to define my refusal as punishment. You think because you collected enough screenshots you get to win? This is not a school play, Leah. There is no winner. That was the last thing I said to her that night. She left. Aaron stayed in the room for another 30 seconds, maybe less. He looked embarrassed more than angry. Then he followed her. The consequences were not immediate or spectacular. Nobody lost custody the next morning. Nobody got arrested. Nobody posted a public confession. Life got more administrative, which was probably exactly what it needed. The quick agreement Leah wanted disappeared from the conversation. Our attorneys communicated. A temporary parenting plan became specific instead of vague. Pickups had times. Cancellations had to be written. Changes were handled through a co-parenting app instead of phone fights. I did not stop Leah from seeing Ivy. I did insist that promises stop being treated like completed parenting time. If Leah said she would take Ivy Saturday, then Saturday existed on the schedule. If she canceled, the record showed that she canceled. There was no more later argument about whether I had made it difficult. We also did not move Ivy directly into a regular overnight routine in Aaron's home. That became one of Leah's biggest complaints. She said I was trying to freeze her life because I could not accept Aaron. My position was simpler. Ivy had already told a counselor she felt replaced by the new household. Throwing her into that household more quickly did not seem like the treatment for feeling replaced. The transition happened gradually, with professional input and clear plans. Some people thought that was too cautious. I can live with that. Aaron did not disappear. For a while, he and Leah were still together, but I could tell something had changed between them. He stopped contacting me entirely, which I appreciated. At one exchange, he waited in the car instead of coming to the door. Months later, during a conversation with Paige, I learned he had been upset that Leah never told him how many visits she had canceled or that the fear language in the parenting summary came from selective context. I did not ask for details. Their relationship was not my problem to solve. Paige apologized, but not in some dramatic, complete way. She called me one evening and said, "I really did think you were making it hard for her." I know. I should have asked more questions. Probably. She was quiet. Then she said, "I did not know she missed that many days." It was almost the same thing she had said at the family meeting. I believed her. I also did not suddenly trust her with everything. That relationship became more distant. Martin called me once too. He said, "I owe you an apology for what I accused you of." I told him I appreciated it. Then he asked how Ivy was doing. That mattered more. June never really apologized. She said things had gotten out of hand on both sides, and that family matters should not have been discussed in front of so many people. I reminded her that the room contained the people Leah had already brought into it. June said, "There were better ways." Maybe there were. That is one part of this story I still think about. Could I have taken every document straight to my attorney and never shown Leah's family anything? Yes. Would that have protected Ivy's privacy more? Maybe. But Leah was actively using those people as pressure. They were calling me, judging me, and repeating claims that affected how they treated me and, eventually, how they spoke around Ivy. I did not show them the notebook. I showed them only the small pieces Ivy had agreed could be shared for that purpose, plus records that belonged to the adults anyway. I think that line mattered. I also understand why someone might think I should have kept even those pages out of the family meeting. Ivy was the one who paid the highest price for all of it. Counseling helped, but it did not erase the fact that her mother had asked her to write down her feelings and then failed to read them. At first, Ivy thought the notebook had caused the divorce fight. That took time to correct. One night she asked me, "If I didn't give Mom the notebook at the play, would you still be married?" That question hurt more than anything Leah had said to me. I sat beside Ivy on the couch. "No," I said. "The notebook did not break our marriage." But she got mad about it. She got mad because adults had already made a mess and the notebook made some of the mess harder to ignore. Ivy frowned. "That sounds like the same thing." Fair point. So I tried again. "You were not responsible for what happened between me and Mom. You wrote what she asked you to write. You told the truth about how you felt. The adults are responsible for what they did with that. Are you mad she didn't read it?" "Yes." She looked at me because I usually softened answers about Leah. I said, "I'm mad because you tried to tell her something important. But being mad at Mom is my feeling to handle. You don't have to carry it." Ivy nodded and asked if she could have ice cream. That was very Ivy. A heavy question followed immediately by something completely normal. Leah's relationship with her did not end. I did not want it to. But it changed. For a while, visits were shorter and more structured. Leah had to rebuild trust in boring ways, which is harder than showing up with gifts. She had to arrive when she said she would. She had to call when she promised. She had to stop making every disappointment somebody else's fault. Sometimes she did well. Sometimes she slipped. I stopped covering for the slips. That was probably the biggest change in me. Before, if Leah was 30 minutes late, I would tell Ivy traffic was bad even if I had no idea whether that was true. If Leah canceled, I would say something probably came up. I thought I was protecting Ivy from feeling rejected. What I was actually doing was making the world confusing. Ivy could see that her mother had not come. When I invented gentle explanations, Ivy had to choose between what she saw and what I told her. So I changed how I spoke. If Leah canceled, I said, "Mom canceled today. I know that hurts." If I did not know why, I said I did not know why. If Ivy asked whether Leah loved her, I said yes, because I believe Leah does love her. But I stopped using love as an excuse for behavior. Love does not make a missed pickup happen retroactively. Love does not turn a distorted parenting summary into an accurate one. Love is real, and accountability is real too. The divorce eventually moved forward through normal legal channels. There was no single dramatic day when everything became fair. The house issue took negotiation. Parenting time took revisions. Counseling recommendations had to be considered. Money went to lawyers that I would have preferred to spend on almost anything else. I lost things. I lost a marriage, obviously. I lost a version of Leah I had kept alive in my head long after her actions stopped matching it. I lost some relationships with her family, or at least the easy version of those relationships. I lost the idea that if I stayed patient enough, Leah would eventually admit what she had done without anyone forcing the issue. And I had to accept something I did not like about myself. My silence had not been neutral. I had told myself I was protecting Ivy by refusing to speak badly about her mother. That part was right. But I had gone further. I had protected Leah from consequences. I had cleaned up missed plans, softened explanations, and treated obvious patterns like isolated mistakes because I wanted Ivy to keep a beautiful picture of her mother. A child does not need a beautiful picture. A child needs a safe one. Those are not always the same thing. About 6 months after the school play, Ivy brought the blue notebook into the living room and set it beside me. "I don't want it in my backpack anymore," she said. "Okay. Can you keep it? If you want me to." She sat down beside me. The cover looked worse than before. The sticker had finally fallen off, leaving a pale square where it used to be. "Do lawyers need it?" she asked. "Copies of the few pages you approved are already with the people who need them. The rest is yours. So I can throw it away?" "Yes." "Can I keep it but not look at it?" "Yes." She thought for a minute. "Can you put it somewhere safe?" I told her I would. Before I stood up, she asked, "What if I write bad stuff about you in another notebook?" I smiled a little. "Then write it." "What if you don't like it?" "I probably won't like all of it." She laughed. Then I told her the thing I wish somebody had made clear to her before any of this started. You don't have to write the right thing for adults. You don't have to pick the right parent. And you don't have to give anybody useful sentences so they'll love you. She looked at the notebook, then at me. "Can I still write that you're annoying about bedtime?" "Yes." "Because you are." "I know." I put the blue notebook in a box in the top of my closet with Ivy standing there, so she knew exactly where it was. Not as evidence. Not as leverage. Not as a trophy from a divorce fight. Just because she asked me to keep it safe. That is where it stayed. And that, more than the paperwork or the family meeting, is the part one think about when people say I should have kept the peace. For years, peace in our house had meant making unpleasant facts softer so nobody had to look directly at them. I do not do that anymore. I still do not insult Leah to Ivy. I still do not ask Ivy to choose sides. I still believe her relationship with her mother belongs to her, not to me. But if Leah misses a visit, I do not invent a reason. If a document says Ivy is afraid of me, I do not stay quiet to look gracious. If an adult asks a child to speak, that adult has to be willing to hear what the child actually says. The divorce cost all of us something. There was no clean victory in it. But Ivy no longer has to write herself into the version of the family that makes the adults most comfortable. For me, that became the boundary worth keeping. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.